In this video, we're going to create a loading screen in Unity. We'll check out how to work with async operations and how you can implement your own progress bars in your own video games. Coming up. Hey guys, John here with another Unity C# tutorial. If you're new to this channel, we create amazing game dev related content every week focusing on all things Unity for both artists and programmers. So, consider subscribing. Let's dive in. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create this menu together. So here I am in a new scene. I'm just gonna go to UI and let's create an image object. I'm going to rename this to background, and this is going to be our main background. I'll replace the source image. And on the image itself, this is a 1920 by 1080 image. This game was designed for 1920 by 1080. If you want these assets, by the way, you can grab them at the asset store. Just type in the Great Fleece. Okay, so here we are. We have our background. I'm going to set the width here to 1920 by 1080. And you'll see here that it's not looking proper. Let's position the X and Y to 0. And then on the canvas here, I want to make sure that we are scaling with screen size and that our reference resolution is going to be 1920 by 1080. This is going to allow us to stretch the screen and our loading bar will fill with it. Okay, so here's our background. Let's create another image component and add our title. And this is our main menu. Really, really easy. All right, once again, that's designed for 1920 by 1080. And it should automatically fit where it needs to be. Good. So here's what we're going to create. Automatically, when I run the game, this is going to trigger off our loading screen, and then we'll load a new scene. So when you're creating a loading screen in your games, you have three parts. You have your main menu scene, you have your load level scene, and then you have the scene that's going to be loaded, your actual game. So let's save our scene here, and let's call this main menu. Let's create a new scene by going to File, New Scene, and this is going to be where we're going to now build our level loading screen. So here we're going to go to Create UI, let's create a new image object, and let's call this background. And let's attach the background image that we have. So here, main BG. This is also a 1920 by 1080 image, so width is going to be 1920 by 1080. Set the position to 0, and then I want to make sure that this will scale properly when I shrink it down. So I want to make sure that I'm always going to use scale with screen size, and then the reference resolution is going to be 1920 by 1080. Okay, so here we go, and we have our loading bar here. And what we need to add now is our fill. So you'll see here that we have a progress bar. So let's create a new UI image object, and let's call this progress bar. And let's attach that progress bar. Now what's really nice with the Unity UI is we can simulate this progress bar. So if I find this in the scene here, if we focus in on this, you'll see here that here's our progress bar, and what we want to do here is position it where it needs to be. So I'm going to go into the rec tool, and let's drag this to say start over here. And then I can fill it to the top and just stretch it. So this is going to be the starting position of it for our fill. Now the logic here, or the visual representation of this, is that I'm going to be able to stretch this like this, and we're going to be able to simulate this progress bar. So what I want to do here is I want to stretch it to the very end. And once it's stretched to the very end, how do we go about creating this? Well, the image components of Unity have what's called a fill type. So here we have an image type set to simple. If we drop that down, you'll see here that we have a filled type, and we can actually choose how this is filled. So for example, a radial, or if we look here, we have horizontal and left to right. And you'll see here that automatically by having the fill origin set to left and the fill method set to horizontal, we can now simulate based on a value between 0 and 1, 0 being not started and 1 being completely loaded, we can create our loading bar. So through code, we'll programmatically change this value. So now the last thing here is that we do have an overlay. To do this properly, I'm actually going to copy the progress bar image because I want it to be lined up properly. So I'm just going to duplicate the progress bar, and we'll call it overlay. And then here we have a red overlay image, and that's just going to add a little bit of some blood to it. If we go back to our progress bar and simulate this, you'll see here that we now get that awesome, cool little patchy effect. Okay, so what we need to do now is programmatically load the level and assign the progress updates of that operation to this fill amount. So save your scene and let's create a new scene. So this is going to be our loading scene. And let's create a new scene, and this is actually going to be our game scene. All right, so let's save this scene and let's call this game. Okay, so we have our loading scene, our main menu, and our game scene. So from the main menu, we hit play, we're gonna go into our loading scene, we're gonna load the game, and then once the game is loaded, we'll then actually go into the game. So let's start piecing this together. The first thing we need to do here in the main menu is I need a script that says, hey, as soon as I hit play here, let's say wait 3 seconds and then go into the loading scene. How do we do that? Well, we need to create a script that's gonna be responsible for it. So I'm gonna create a new C# script here, and let's call this main menu, and I'm gonna attach it to my canvas. So once we attach that script to the canvas object, let's open this up in Visual Studio. And what we need to do here is we need to now load that scene. Now, in order to load scenes in Unity as of 2018, we use what's called the Scene Manager, which is part of the using Unity Engine.Scene Management namespace. That's going to allow us to use a function that's going to load a scene based on the scene index that we place it in for our build settings. So all we're gonna do here is basically on void start, I just wanna load a scene. So here I'm gonna say scene manager dot load scene. And here we can actually pass in the index of the scene, or I can pass in a string name of the scene. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it by index. So I'm gonna load scene 1, because 0 is gonna be the main menu, 1 is the loading screen, and 2 is the actual game. So here, scene manager.load scene 1, and if I wanted this to occur after, say, 3 seconds of the game running, I could just turn this into an IEnumerator. So here, instead of void start, I could say IEnumerator start, and that's going to convert void start, which is automatically called from monobehavior in Unity, into a coroutine. And then here, I can simply just yield return and specify how many seconds do I want to wait. So for seconds here, we're just gonna wait, let's say 3 seconds. So automatically, you turn the void start into an IEnumerator, and you can actually do this for a majority of the monobehavior classes. All right, let's save this. We need to go to our build settings, and inside the build settings, we need to now add our scenes. So what I'm gonna do here, let's remove these guys if I can, is we're just gonna add the open scene, which is our main menu, which is set to 0. Then we're gonna add in our loading scene, followed by our game scene. So index 1 is our loading scene. Let's run this, and you'll see here that within 3 seconds, it will load our screen loading. And here we go. So what we need to do now is we need to simulate this loading the game scene, and when the game scene is ready, we'll launch it. So to do that, let's hop into our loading screen. Make sure you save your scene. And in here, what we need to do is we need to select our progress bar. The fill amount is gonna start at 0. We need to get a reference to this fill amount. So I need a reference to this image component, and then we need to look up what's called loading async operations in Unity. And that's going to allow us to, while we're in this scene, we're gonna load the game level in the background. And once it's ready, we can then open the scene. So to do that is actually really simple. We're gonna create here a scene loading script. So here, let's call this scene loading. And let's attach it to the canvas. And let's take a look in pseudocode what it is that we need to do. Inside here, what we need to do is as soon as we launch this scene, we need to basically say, hey, begin the process of loading in the background, our game scene. So here we're gonna say start async operation. And that's going to happen using a coroutine. And the reason for that is so that we can constantly check the progress of us loading the game scene, and we can take that progress value and assign it to our fill amount. So here's start sync operation, and that's going to be using an IEnumerator. So we need to create an IEnumerator, and let's call this like load scene level. We'll say load a sync operation. And in here, all we're gonna do, let's just add in just so we can satisfy the conditions here. We're just gonna say yield return new wait for end of frame. So that's going to allow the program to breathe. And once we start the async operation here, we need to actually say, hey, take this scene and begin loading it in the background. And we do that through what's called async operations, which is part of the Unity Scene Manager. So we need to use that namespace Unity Engine.scene management. And inside of here, we need to create an async operation. And then we need to take the progress bar and the fill amount equals the async operation progress. And then what we need to do is, when finished, load the game scene. Pretty easy, right? So here, start async operation is pretty simple. We're just going to load in that coroutine. We're going to start it. So here we're going to say start coroutine, load async operation. And then inside of here, we need to create an async operation. And to quickly figure out how to do that, we can just go to Google and we can type in Unity async operation. So when I do that, async operations, you'll quickly see here that if we look at the scripting API for Unity async, it's scenemanager.loadLevelAsync. And if we look at this, it shows us exactly how to use it. Let's go down here to the code, and you'll see here that they created an async operation, they created a variable name, and they assigned it to the loadLevelAsync method. And they pass in which scene do you want to load. So for us, it's going to be index 2. All right, so using this, we know exactly what we need to do. So create an async operation. So to do that, we're going to say async operation. And it says asynchronous operation coroutine. And this is going to be our level progress, or level, game level, equals the scene manager dot load level async. And if we look at the parentheses here for the tooltip, it's looking for a scene index, and that's going to be scene index 2. So in the background, we are automatically going to start loading in this level. And what I want to do now is I basically want to take the progress bar fill and assign it to the async operation. What do we need to do that? Well, this is going to be between 0 and 1. And what we want to do also is load the level when the game is finished. So how do I know if we load, how do I know when the game is finished? Well, we can check that through the game level. So here the game level is going to have a handle to our sync operation. And you can see here that we have things like completed, which is going to say, okay, go ahead and load that scene. Or we can have things game level dot progress. And that's going to return the operation's progress between 0 and 1. All right, so what we're going to do here is we need to create a while loop. And within this while loop, we're basically checking if the game level is ready to load. So here I'm going to say if game level dot progress is less than 1. If it's less than 1, that means that we're not ready to load the scene, right? So what do we want to do? Well, we want to take the progress bar and fill the async operation. So we need a reference to the progress bar. So at the top here, I'm going to create an image component variable to store a reference. And in order to do that, I need to use the using Unity Engine.UI namespace so that I can access that. So I'm going to say private image. And then down here, we're going to say progress bar. And so that I can assign it in the inspector, I'll add the serialized field attribute above it. Let's scroll down here back to our sync method. And here, while the game level.progress is less than 1, we're going to take the progress bar fill, which is our underscore progress bar, dot fill amount, and that's going to equal the async operations progress, which is our game level.progress. And then last but not least, we need to make sure that the program can breathe. So we need to add yield return new wait for end of frame. That's going to wait for the end of the frame, allow the program to breathe so that it doesn't crash on us. And then we can remove this one. So let's take a look at this logic here. We start an async operation. While the game level.progress is less than 1, we're going to assign the progress to our fill amount, which is going to automatically populate our progress bar. And that's all we have to do. Automatically, when this scene is ready to be loaded, it will be loaded. And while it's not ready, we're just going to fill the progress bar. Let's head back into Unity here, select our canvas. We need to now assign the progress bar to the inspector, which we have a field slot available for, and then let's simply run the game. So here I'm going to hop back into our main menu. Let's save our scene. After 3 seconds, it should load our progress bar and then go into the game. And it should happen pretty quickly because there's nothing in our actual game to be loaded, but as you can see here, it did take us to our game scene. While our scene has nothing to load, and while I'm on a gaming rig, our computer is super efficient and quick to load this. If you actually had a completed environment like what we actually created in this cinematography course, you can expect about an 8 to 9 second loading time, and that will allow you to actually see the progress of your loading bar. So I hope you guys enjoyed the content, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much to all of our Plus and Professional members. You guys are the reason we're able to make new videos every week. Special thanks to Laurie DK, Lucky Ducky 10, Mr. Amor Castro, OJ Zach, 6, and The Lost 03. You guys rock.